There was a village at the edge of a mountain, small, quiet, peaceful. The people there lived simple lives, farming and trading beneath the shadow of ancient trees. And in the center of the village stood the oldest tree of all, a giant oak, hundreds of years old, its branches reaching toward the sky like prayers, its roots running deep into the earth like anchors. The villagers loved that tree. It was their meeting place, their shelter, their symbol of strength. They believed as long as the tree stood, the village would stand too. But one night, a storm came, not just rain or wind, but a storm that roared like a beast, that shook the ground, that tore the sky apart. Lightning cracked. Thunder rolled, and the great oak trembled. The villagers huddled in their homes, praying, waiting, hoping, and then they heard a sound like the world breaking, a groan, a snap, a crash that echoed through the valley. When morning came, they stepped outside, and their hearts sank. The great oak had fallen, split down the middle. Its massive trunk stretched across the ground like a corpse, its branches shattered, its leaves scattered. Gone. The villagers stood in silence. Some cried, some turned away. An old woman whispered that it was over. The tree was gone. Te were lost. A young man named Eli stared at the fallen tree, his chest heavy, his throat tight. That tree had been there his whole life, where his father taught him to climb, where he carved his first love's name, where he sat when the world felt too big. And now it was gone. The village gathered. The elders spoke of clearing it away, chopping it up, burning it, removing the reminder of what they'd lost. But Eli didn't move. He kept staring at the tree, at the way it lay across the ground, at the way its trunk stretched from one side of the village square to the other. And something stirred in his mind, a thought, a question. He called for them to wait. The elders turned, questioning. Eli walked closer to the tree and ran his hand along the bark. It was still strong, still solid, still whole in its own way. He looked up across the square and saw something the others didn't. This tree used to connect them to the sky, eyed slowly. But now it could connect them to each other. The villagers frowned, confused. An elder insisted it was dead, fallen, that there was nothing left. Elo's voice grew stronger. No, it hadn't died, it had just changed. He pointed across the square to the river on the other side, shallow, but too wide to cross easily. For years, the villagers had walked a long path around it to the narrow crossing upstream. It took time, energy, separated the village from the farmland beyond. They'd always needed a bridge, Eli said. They just never had one. But now, they did. The villagers looked at the fallen tree, then at the river, and slowly, understanding began to dawn. Eli climbed onto the trunk. It was wide, sturdy, strong enough to hold weight. He asked for help to move it. At first, no one moved. They were still mourning, still lost in what they'd lost. But then a woman stepped forward, then a man, then another, and another, until the whole village gathered around the fallen oak. Together, they pushed, pulled, lifted, inch by inch, foot by foot. The great tree moved slowly, heavily, but it moved. And when the sun began to set, the trunk lay across the river, solid, steady, strong. A bridge. Eli walked across it first, his footsteps echoing on the wood. When he reached the other side and turned back, the villagers stood watching. One by one, they followed, crossing the bridge that used to be a tree, walking over what they thought was a tragedy. The old woman who had wept that morning crossed last. She stopped in the middle, placed her hand on the wood, and tears came again, but different tears this time. Not of loss, but of gratitude. She'd thought this was the end, but it was a beginning. Mont Passet, the bridge, became the heart of the village, cutting travel time in half, connecting families, opening new paths. Children played on it. Lovers met there. Merchants used it, and every time someone crossed, they remembered the storm, the crash, the morning they thought everything was over. And they remembered the lesson the fallen tree taught them, that crisis is not the end, but the opening, the opportunity, the chance to build something new, something better, something that couldn't exist before. One evening, Eli sat on the bridge watching the river flow beneath him. His grandfather joined him in silence. Finally, the old man spoke. When he was young, he'd lost everything: his home, his crops, his savings. He thought he was finished. But an old man told him something he never forgot. What breaks you can also rebuild you. Not into what you were, but into what you're meant to become. Eli nodded slowly. The tree didn't stop serving them, it just served them differently. His grandfather agreed. That's the truth. Most people never learn. They see the fall and think it's the end. They see the loss and call it failure. But every ending is just a new beginning in disguise. Every closed door is a chance to build a new one. Every fallen tree can become a bridge if you have the courage to see it and the strength to build it. Eli looked at the bridge beneath him. The wood worn smooth by 1,000 footsteps, strong, useful, loved. He almost let them burn it. His grandfather smiled, but he didn't, because he saw what others couldn't, that the storm didn't destroy the tree. It repositioned it. And sometimes that's what crisis does. It doesn't end your story, it changes your direction. And if you're willing to let go of what was and embrace what can be, you'll find that the best parts of your life are often built on the ruins of the worst. The truth is this: life will knock you down. It will take what you love, shatter what you built, leave you standing in the wreckage, wondering how to move forward. But the fall is not the end. The storm is not the enemy. The crisis is not the conclusion. It's the opportunity, the turning point, the moment that asks, what will you build from this? Because every failure can become a foundation. Every loss can become a lesson. Every fallen tree can become a bridge, not back to where you were, but forward to where you need to go. So when life breaks you, when the storm comes, when everything falls, don't just mourn what's gone. Look closer, ask deeper, and start building. Because the tree hasn't died, it's just waiting for you to see it differently, to use it differently, to turn what broke you into what carries you forward. That's not just survival. That's transformation. That's strength. That's how you turn crisis into opportunity. And that's how you build a bridge to the life you're meant to live.